Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we'll look at some more creepy and disturbing facts about horror movies. Wolf Creek is an incredibly scary movie, but maybe not for the reasons you think. As it turns out, it was inspired by real events. Wolf Creek is an Australian horror movie that came out in 2005. It's about two British tourists, Liz and Christy, and their Australian friend Ben, who decide to travel across the country. Their adventure takes a terrifying turn, however, when they visit Wolf Creek National Park. Their car stops working and they meet a friendly local guy named Mick Taylor who offers to help them. But Mick is not at all who he seems to be, and a scary adventure begins. The movie is inspired by a mix of different true stories rather than just one. The main inspirations come from two infamous Australian cases, the backpacker murders and the Peter Falconio case. Let's start with the backpacker murders. During the 1990s, several backpackers went missing while traveling in New South Wales, Australia. Later, it was found that they had been victims of Ivan Milat, who was convicted for these crimes. Milat's actions were truly horrifying, and he became known as one of Australia's worst serial killers. Then there is the Peter Falconio case. In 2001, British tourist Peter Falconio and his girlfriend Joanne Lees were traveling in the Australian outback when they were attacked by a man named Bradley John Murdoch. Peter was never seen again, and Joanne barely escaped. Murdoch was later found guilty of Peter's murder. Wolf Creek took inspiration from these real-life crimes to create a fictional story that captures the true fear and danger of traveling in a remote area. Of course, it's highly unlikely, but it makes you think, what if this is that one-in-a-million situation? Mick Taylor, the villain in the movie, is also a mix of real-life killers, Ivan Milat and Bradley John Murdoch. He's shown as a friendly local who turns out to be a nightmare for the travelers. What makes the film particularly scary is knowing that it's based on real events before watching it. The idea that something like this could actually happen makes the movie a lot more intense. The film also shows the beautiful but isolated Australian outback, making you feel how alone and helpless the characters are. There are also some intense violent scenes that show that the killer is a total psychotic monster. While Wolf Creek is a horror movie, there are some important lessons to learn from it. Always be careful when traveling, especially in places you're not familiar with. But it's important to remember that while it's inspired by true events, the story in the movie is fictional. One thing that has always freaked me out after watching Jaws is the thought of being alone in the middle of the ocean. The movie Open Water turns that scary thought into a story that you might think twice about before going swimming again. But here's something even more surprising. Open Water is also based on a true story. Let's dive into the details of the movie and the real-life event behind it. Open Water is about a couple, Susan and Daniel, who go on a vacation to escape their busy lives. They decide to go scuba diving, which sounds pretty fun, right? Not after watching 47 meters down, it's not. Things take a turn for the worse when they're accidentally left behind in the ocean by their tour boat. With no land in sight and surrounded by water, they have to try to survive. The idea for the story came from a chilling event that happened in 1998. Tom and Eileen Lonergan were a couple from America who went scuba diving with a group off the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. Due to a headcount mistake, they were left behind in the wide, seemingly infinite ocean. When the boat crew realized the mistake 2 days later, it was too late. Despite a big search, Tom and Eileen were never found, and it's believed they didn't survive. Open Water takes inspiration from what happened to the couple and imagines what their experience might have been like. The movie uses the ocean to create a feeling of being totally alone and far away from help. It's scary because the danger isn't from monsters or ghosts, but from something real, being simply forgotten in the vast ocean. This makes you think how a simple mistake can lead to death. The Exorcism of Emily Rose, released in 2005, stands out not just for some of its extremely well-crafted scary scenes, but also because it's inspired by true events. The movie advertises this, but the film blurs the lines between courtroom drama and supernatural horror, leaving us pondering the mysteries of faith, the paranormal, and mental illness. For this part of the video, let's dive into the true story that inspired this chilling movie. At the heart of The Exorcism of Emily Rose is the tragic tale of Anneliese Michel, a young German woman whose life story is both heartbreaking and mystifying. Born in 1952 Bavaria, Germany, Anneliese grew up in a deeply religious Catholic family. However, her life took a dramatic turn when she started experiencing epileptic seizures at the age of 16. Diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy, Anneliese's condition was accompanied by disturbing hallucinations and depression, which treatment seemed unable to cure fully. As her condition worsened, Anneliese began to believe that she was possessed by demons. Her convictions were supported by her deeply religious background and the failure of medical interventions to improve her condition significantly. This belief led Anneliese and her family to seek the help of the Catholic Church, convinced that only an exorcism could save her. After much persuasion, two priests, Ernst Alt and Arnold Renz, were granted permission by a bishop to perform an exorcism on Anneliese. Over 10 months in 1975 and 1976, Anneliese underwent 67 exorcism sessions, a harrowing experience that was supposed to free her from the grip of demonic possession. During these sessions, Anneliese exhibited extreme strength, spoken languages she wasn't known to have studied, and displayed an aversion to religious objects. The exorcism sessions were both physically and mentally taxing. Anneliese endured fasting and other forms of penance, believing they were necessary to expel the demons. Tragically, on July 1, 1976, Anneliese Michel passed away. The official cause of death was malnutrition and dehydration, as she weighed only 68 pounds at her death. The passing of Anneliese led to a highly publicized trial where her parents and the two priests were charged with negligent homicide. The trial sparked nationwide debate on the nature of possession and the intersection of religion and mental health. Ultimately, the defendants were found guilty of manslaughter resulting from negligence and were sentenced to 6 months in jail, which was suspended, and 3 years of probation. This real-life horror story inspired The Exorcism of Emily Rose, a movie that takes considerable creative liberties but remains rooted in the essence of what it seems like Anneliese might have experienced. So some directors are known for making films that are not just stories, but a lot more bold and controversial. One such director was Pier Paolo Pasolini, an Italian filmmaker known for movies like Salo, which I don't even have the stomach for. Seriously, there's a chapter in the movie called Circle of Shit. Pasolini's life had a complex and intriguing ending that remains a mystery that still puzzles people today. He was born in Italy in 1922. He was not just a filmmaker, but also a poet and writer who clearly wasn't afraid to express his views, even if they were incredibly unpopular. Pasolini's movies often talked about the struggles of the poor and criticized the government and society for ignoring them. He believed movies could be a powerful way to speak about important issues. Pasolini's movies are different from what most people were used to at the time. They were raw, real, and very controversial. He wanted his audience to feel deeply. His work was celebrated by some for its bravery, but also criticized by many others who didn't agree with his bold choices. In 1975, Pasolini's life came to a tragic end under circumstances that left many questions unanswered. During the night of November 1st, he was murdered at the beach of Ostia, near Rome. He was found dead with multiple injuries caused by being run over several times with his own car. Initially, it was thought to be a simple case of a robbery gone wrong, but as time passed, people began to suspect there was more to the story. Some believed that because Pasolini often spoke out against powerful groups in society, his death might not have been just an accident. Despite investigations and trials, the truth about what happened to Pasolini remains a mystery. Over the years, various theories have, of course, been suggested, but none of them have been proven. I feel like everyone knows about a few tragic stories in Hollywood, but Brandon Lee's story is especially dark. The story of Brandon Lee is incredibly heartbreaking. He was not just the son of legendary martial artist Bruce Lee, but was also carving out his own path in the movie industry. His most famous role in The Crow was supposed to be his big break. Tragically, he died in an accident on the movie set before he could finish filming. Born in 1965, Brandon had a big shoes to fill as the son of Bruce Lee. It wasn't easy dealing with the expectations that came with his family name, but Brandon was determined to make his own mark. Initially unsure about acting, he eventually couldn't resist the seemingly magic pull of Hollywood and the cameras. He started in smaller roles where he got to show off not just his martial arts skills like his dad, but also his growing talent as an actor. Brandon was on his way up, and The Crow was going to be his chance to shine as the leading man. This was a special kind of movie, dark but also full of action, and Brandon seemed perfect for the lead role. However, during filming in 1993, a tragic accident changed everything. A gun that was supposed to be safe accidentally fired a real bullet during a scene. Brandon was hit and died from his injuries. This shocking accident made everyone question how something so tragic could happen on a movie set. Now, here is something that I didn't know. Yes, Hollywood often uses real guns for filming, but they are typically loaded with blanks for scenes requiring gunfire, which I think is still pretty dangerous. Blanks create the sound and flash of a gun without the lethal projectile. However, even blanks can be dangerous at close range due to the force of the explosion and any debris that might be expelled from the barrel. In Brandon Lee's case, the gun that was used had previously been loaded with improperly made dummy rounds, which are designed to look like real bullets on camera but do not actually fire. One of the dummy rounds had been constructed by removing the gunpowder and primer from a real bullet, but the bullet tip, the projectile, was mistakenly left in the barrel when the dummy round was ejected out of the gun. This is because the primer, although supposedly deactivated, was not completely removed or was struck hard enough to push the bullet into the barrel, where it got stuck. The loss of Brandon hit the cast and crew hard, but they decided to finish The Crow in his honor. They used early computer effects to include Brandon in the entire movie. When it was finally released, it was a hit. People loved it, but it was a bittersweet moment because Brandon wasn't there to see its success. His death, however, led to stricter safety rules on movie sets. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.